Clark, the entertainment industry is just one of the most exciting, you know, it's sexy, it's just, it's everything everybody thinks it is. It is also a lot of hard work, and I talk about that in my chapter. But it's also, what I think has been fascinating about it is it has been at the forefront of all the technological changes that are going on. I worked at the Walt Disney Company, which is one of the largest media companies in the world. And so watching what has been going on with like viral marketing and social media and what's going on with, you know, traditional media has just been really, really fascinating. It was really the entertainment business that was one of the first to get into the viral marketing. I talk in my chapter about the Blair Witch Project, which for those of us who are old enough to remember it, the lead up to it and all the viral talk and buzz that had been created out on the social networks, which, you know, was the internet at that time. They really didn't have social networks, but that was as much a part of the movie experience as watching the movie, because it was all this mystery of, oh my God, what happened to these kids? You know, they only found the camera, and, you know, blah blah blah. And of course, as you watch the movie, and later we find out it was all just part of a movie. But it was an experience that transcended the movie theater or the DVD, if you will. And that changed entertainment, and it broadened entertainment to a very exciting area. I think where we're heading now is just an extension of all of that. And what is really exciting about this industry, as well as others, but particularly this industry, is it's going to be at the forefront of technological changes, geographical changes, as it's a very global industry, where it used to be headquartered mainly in Hollywood, maybe a little bit in Europe, but now it's in India and China, it's all over the world. So a terribly exciting business to be a part of, and glamorous and sexy, but a lot of hard work. The communication leadership in the industry is, as you pointed out, very critical, and it's evolving as well. You know, in the early days of the studios, they had they were publicity agents, and all their jobs was to get your name in the paper. Communication, just like it has in corporate communications across the country, has evolved to a much more strategic point of view and an opportunity. It's really got a seat at the table now. We deal with not just getting the name out of the next movie or the next movie star or those sort of things, which are still important, but we also deal with a lot of issues. I had the great fortune of being the Vice President of Communication at the Disneyland Resort during the 50th anniversary, which I'm still pinching myself. It was an amazing opportunity. It was an icon known the world over, and I had a front row seat to it. But it wasn't, we took the 50th anniversary beyond just being a marketing play to drive people into the front gate. We really saw it as a strategic opportunity to do a lot of things to the resort. One of the things we did was, operationally, they made the resort look better. You know, it needed some attention, and there was a famous boardroom fight at the Walt Disney Company over that, with Roy Disney, Walt's nephew, complaining about the condition of the park. So we polished it up, but we also saw that it was an opportunity to start talking about the resort in a new way, that it wasn't just the happiest place on earth alone, a place where you go to ride rides and be entertained. It was also a very significant business. So strategically, we saw an opportunity to do an economic impact study of the resort. And we learned that it was worth $3.6 billion to the Southern California economy. And that's money that does not go to the Walt Disney Company. That's money that goes to taxi companies, bus companies, florists, the people who make the balloons, the people who you know, maybe dry clean, you know, cater food, and it affected all 5 counties of Southern California. We directly employed 20,000 people, but we found out that there were another 20,000 people who were indirectly employed by the park or because of the park. So we launched the 50th anniversary not with a big parade and fireworks, which we ultimately did, but the very first thing we did was we talked about this economic impact study. It was the curtain raiser to the 50th anniversary. It worked out incredibly well for us, because while it set the stage that we are a business and we have a huge role in that community, later, when we got into some controversies, I was also there when the Walt Disney Company sued the city of Anaheim for the first time in 50 years over a land dispute involving residential zoning around the resort. Because we had that economic impact report, we could then go to the community, to the business leaders, with very credible, substantial business information and a case as to why they should listen to our point of view and support our point of view. We ultimately won. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were worth $3.6 billion to that community and employed so many people and paid so many taxes. And people knew that, and it wasn't just a place to go have fun. Communications, as we're all struggling with what does the new social media mean, I think Disney also has struggled with that a little bit, just like any other company, even though we're also one of the big media companies. One of the things that happened that was really interesting around this, right after the 50th, is the Los Angeles Times started listening to the bloggers and the social media rather than listening to us. And they started believing that they were getting better information from the bloggers. And so they started picking up stories that weren't true, which put us into a very awkward position. When I tried to go to the editors and explain that what you were reporting wasn't true, their fallback was, well, it doesn't have to be true. We're reporting the fact that this blogger said this. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. So we got into, in the early stages, the rub between traditional media and social media, and the journalistic standards that had been in jeopardy with the social media. So I had a couple of times where I couldn't break through with the LA Times. But finally, I started breaking through and started showing them where they were wrong, pointing out very logically, calmly, why they shouldn't be reporting just what a blogger is saying, because that process, that information hadn't gone through the journalistic purview, if you will. So we finally got to an interesting case where there were about 3 of these, they were about 2 weeks apart. So it was just bam, 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 The third one where I finally made some headway was occasionally we would serve alcohol for private parties at the Disneyland Resort, never to the public. So not like you could buy a martini on Main Street, or a beer in New Orleans Square. But we did have after-hour parties that, a lot of times there were celebrities there and so forth. So the state of California decided that we were having so many of those, we needed a liquor license. So the lawyers came to me. They were so afraid, especially with the pattern that we had been getting from the LA Times of misinformation getting out because of the bloggers. They were afraid that that was going to happen again. And the lawyers' big concern was we would end up with a hearing, which was at the state of California's discretion. So, we had to post these big ugly signs at the front gates of Disneyland that says this establishment has applied for a liquor license. If anybody objects, well, that's like having a church ask for a liquor license, And of course there was more to the story than that sign would suggest. So I went out to the lawyers and said, here's what we need to do. We need to get to 5 bloggers, influential bloggers, right away. And which was kind of an unusual thing. They weren't quite comfortable doing that. But I said, you have to let us do that. So I went to these bloggers on the Friday that we posted the sign. I explained what was going on, that it didn't mean that we were serving martinis on Main Street. You couldn't buy a beer at New Orleans Square. It was just for special events. And it's, that's it. That was the whole story. All the bloggers said, well, that doesn't sound like much of a story, so we won't write on anything. Sure enough, over the weekend, all the Disney files, and Disney probably has more active bloggers and social communities than any other company does. People started taking pictures of the sign and sending it into the bloggers saying, look what's going on, they're ruining Walt's dream, how could they serve, But luckily, we had armed these 5 influential bloggers with the conversation, with the talking points. So they then, without having to call us, because we had armed them on Friday afternoon, so by Sunday afternoon, they posted our points of view and our key messages without having to talk to us. The whole thing went away. There was never a hearing, and the lawyers were happy. The career path into Hollywood, just as it is hard to become a star in Hollywood, it's hard to become a communications star in Hollywood as well. Although I will tell you, it's starting to open up, and there are more jobs now than there have ever been because the industry is expanding rapidly, not just in this country, but it's becoming very global. There's new technology. What's interesting is more and more companies are starting to define themselves as being in the entertainment business. AT&T just recently decided that they're no longer in the telephone business. They decided they're in the entertainment business. And the reason they have said that is because of all the mobile devices and all the entertainment on the devices formerly known as a telephone, that you can now entertain yourself, watch movies, play games, or whatever. So the definition of the entertainment business is expanding, and it's starting to include other companies that traditionally weren't in the entertainment business. So all of that's meaning that there are more job opportunities to get in and more ways to get in. For somebody just starting out, there's some agencies that cater to the Hollywood industry, the entertainment industry. That might be a good place to start. You have to do grunt work, and it can be really hard work at that level because if you're doing a movie premiere, it is just tremendous hours. It's grueling. You can end up traveling all around the country, taking one of the stars with you on a tour. And while that may sound exciting and glamorous, the second time you do that, not so much. But there are ways to get into it, and you just got to understand that you're going to have to start with the grunt work first, and be prepared to do that. Work with the media. But it's just like every other industry. Good writing skills, good organizational skills, good sense of judgment, a good business sense, because it is a business after all, as well. I think I would be remiss not to talk about where this industry is going. It is different today than it was last year, than it was last month, and it will be different next year, and it's just going to continue to evolve very rapidly. So I forecast that my chapter may become dated very quickly, and my conversation right now may become dated. But that's actually a good thing because it's not static. It's a very dynamic, and there's two things that are really going to affect that. One is technology. There's just so many ways to be entertained now with mobile devices and all kinds of things that we can't even think of, and every year in January when the Consumer Electronics Show happens in Las Vegas, they always introduce some more amazing new things, that just continue to expand what entertainment is. So a good understanding of technology is something I would recommend that a student have in this area, because the better you can understand the technology that's evolving around communication, the better you can contribute as to how it might get used. So it's, again, very dynamic with technology, and make sure you understand it. The second thing is geography. It used to be that the entertainment business was headquartered in Los Angeles and Hollywood specifically. That's no longer true. We now have Bollywood in India, which is also producing films. The Walt Disney Company is now opening a second theme park in China. They're looking to produce programming there. All the studios are looking to get into China and India, Brazil, the really strong economies right now. Filming can happen anywhere. The British film industry with the Harry Potter series, which were all filmed in England, has grown very rapidly. So there's an opportunity to be more geographically diverse than ever before. And so that's an opportunity also to get into. Don't just look to Hollywood. There are other places to get into to the entertainment business.